All right. Welcome everyone. We're going to have the public private coaching with Chstal. How do you pronounce your nickname?
With C. With C, so it's a style.
Chstal. No, my my
It's
mouth
a
is not made for that one.
it's Bosnian it's style. So
Yeah,
we have C. It's like C, but it's C.
yeah. Chal. Chal. All right. What we're going to do today for 1.5 hours is that Chal sent me some hand histories or database from PLO5 Zoom, and I went through the database and found some spots where I think he can improve. And we're going through those hands. And besides that, you sent some hands to me that were problem spots for you. And I think that first we go through the things that I found, and after that, in the end, we'll go through your hands. Is that okay?
Okay.
Yeah. Or maybe actually we do it the other way around so we ensure that we go through your hands. I'm just going to open them. Oops, over there. I'm going to open it in Poker Choose. That's quite easy way to show the replayer as soon as this works. For those who are wondering what is going on, this is not the normal PLO coaching. The thing is that this public-private coaching is basically normal private coaching that is streamed live, and you have the opportunity to ask questions. And this is the first hand. Now we don't have the HUD here, but if you remember anything about the opponents, then you can.
Mm. Yeah, Roy Nelson is a regular,
Yeah,
and the right guy. I don't know who is in the hand, so
let's use the names then. Your hand is Queen Jack 10-9 with one suit, superb hand, and you three-bet UTG open.
okay. So Stanley is basically fish, and the guy who three bets is
Yeah.
regular.
Oh, here's a three-bet, yes.
Yeah,
And you
he's a
decide
regular.
to cold call three-bet. Um, I think this cold call is fine because you have position. And this hand plays pretty well. If someone four bets, it's not a problem with this hand. Because basically 10 stasis you're flipping anyway. So I think definitely with this hand you can call this 3-bet. If this rundown was any lower, like 10, 9, 8, 7, then I think you should fold it. But Queen Jack 10, 9, I think calling is fine. And what happens is that UTG 4 bets and this guy shoves. So you marked this hand. What is the reason that you marked?
Uh, I mark because I'm in third position. I have a good hand. So basically, question is it a good call all in?
In here.
Yeah, in three-way pot.
What do you think about the opponent ranges?
In open ranges, I thought this reg on our right side. I think he have aces, and Stanley like have two kings with ace, or opposite the other way. So that's my basic thinking about these two guys.
Is it possible that both of them have aces?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. If they both have aces, do you have any idea what is your equity?
I think my equity is 55%, but I'm not sure.
The other thing is that if they both have aces, then this is really nice thing about PLO is that then you have 37% equity and they have only 21, so you have the best equity. So the best case scenario is that both of them have aces. If we include some ace king king to both of their ranges, like kings with ace, of course this assumes any kings with ace might be double suited or not. What happens here is still you have 35%. And you need around 30% or something here to stack off. So unless you have, well, you can't have any information that would make you fold, because whatever these guys' ranges are, it means that you have enough equity to stack off.
Okay.
Often in PLO, if you had like pocket kings, then you definitely have to fold, or some pocket pairs. But with these rundowns, it's so hard to have them such ranges that you don't have the 30% equity. So yes, definitely stack off, and I would be quite happy to stack off here, because most of the time these guys have aces or ace king king.
Yeah. What if I? Yeah, I understand. What if in this situation I 4-bet? So this guy is 10-20, he raises to 7, and the next guy he 3-bets to 20, and I 4-bets to 81. So basically, is it good play? And when someone shoves behind us and we are in heads-up pot, is it call or not?
The thing is that you can't fold this hand. If you 4-bet and someone shoves off, you have to call, because if it stays easy, you are flipping. And at that point, there's already so much money in the pot that you don't need like 40% or 35% equity to call. 4-bet here is not a good play, because you put half of your stack in, and you are not ahead of any range. This type of hand, you are often flipping against opponent ranges, but you are not ahead of their ranges ever.
Okay,
and
so
no one is going to 3-bet and then fold to 4-bet often. So once you 4-bet, what happens that you create a big pot, and then it's really hard for your opponent to make mistakes. And the way to make money in poker is that your opponent makes more mistakes than you. So 4-betting here is just taking a huge flip. But with calling, if we assume that this Stanley calls here, then the pot would be somewhere around 80 cents or something, and you have 186 behind, which means that you have position and you can make really good decisions post-flop. So definitely just call here. If you 4-bet here, then you have to be ahead of their ranges, which means that you need to have aces or ace king king type of hands, where you have pre-flop equity edge. Your pre-flop equity is ahead of them, so you push your
I understand.
equity pre-flop. Okay. Let's open the second one. And here you have King Jack 9-9. But how can he check? Wow. Oh, he's probably posted blind, but it doesn't show here. Not sure. How can he check pre-flop? What does the hand history say? Yeah, he's posted blind. It doesn't show here in Poker Juice, that's why. You open King Jack 9-9. And yeah, I think you can open, there's one limper, you can open, steal the button for yourself, and then you get 3-bet and one caller. To call here, you have to see that this is PLO5 and you are quite deep. You are like 160, 170 BPs deep. And I think you can definitely call here, draw for set straight or king high flush. So you call, and flop is 10-3, and they both check. And you check, and on the turn 9 comes, he bets for a pot, and you decide to call. Why do you decide to call?
I decided to call it. It was very weird because he three bets. So he's like a agromaniac fish, and I was really a bit surprised because he checks on 10-3-10. So basically, I put him on two aces, and I really a bit shocked because he's aggressive and why he didn't c bet on the flop, even with 55-60% of the pot c bet. So I'm surprised, and I thought in my mind he probably have 10-3, like two aces 10-3, and I decided to call because if he have a 10, so he's not folding probably, but on every card on the river. So if I'm beaten, he's probably. But if he's bluffing, so he would bluff on the river, and I could take all the money. So that's what I'm thinking with two aces. So if the river comes any card, I don't know 6, 7, 5, he will probably jam with two aces. So that's my level of thinking in this spot.
Yeah, the problem is that if the river is, let's say, 5 of spades and he checks, what do you do?
I jam.
Then you bet.
Yeah.
Yeah, the thinking is right. If he has a 10, the thing is that you cannot jam the river. The pot is 457 and you have 643 behind. So
Yeah.
it's really hard for you to stack him off unless he has a 10. And if he has a 10, then probably doesn't matter what you do, the money goes in. So I kind of like your call. Of course, if he has just the ace 10, then you give him free shot for the few outer on the river. And this line is so weird that when he checks the flop on this board and pots the turn, it really looks like he has 10 in his hand. So I think that I would probably myself just shove here. Because on the river you still have to get the money in, and if he's bluffing the turn with air, I don't think he's bluffing the river unless he's super aggressive. If he's a really aggressive player,
yeah, he's very aggressive. He's like 70% betting on the river.
Yeah. So then, if you think you can barrel the river with air, then calling is fine. And then queen comes and he pots. Now you decide to shove. How or against what range you are shoving here? What worse hands will call you?
I said he will shove like 70%. So maybe we're beaten on the flops with the 10-3. And in this situation, this spot, if you have a 10, like two aces, 10, and some trash card, he would call us with a 10. So in my opinion, that's a really in this spot for me it's only logical to have 10. And if I jam on a turn, he would probably call us with a 10. So
Yeah,
my jam.
he would definitely call you if he has a 10, but the thing is that if he has 10-3, 10-9, 10 queen, then he has you beat.
Yeah, we are already beaten, but what if he doesn't?
Yeah, so now we can check it. How much he 3-bets pre-flop overall?
Like around 15%, I think.
15.
Yeah.
So his range is 3-bet out of position 15%. That's his pre-flop range. So now on the river, we want to know how often he has 10-3 plus, which means any full house with 10-3, 10-9, queen 10, queen, queen 10, 10. And how often he has just random 10 in his hand. And let's see if this works shortly. For some reason, okay. Now we have to change his river range to all the hands that has a 10. Sorry. So we are trying to see that on the river how often he has hands that beats us versus hands that we beat. And now we are assuming that this is his pre-flop range. Of course it might not be true, but it's a good starting point. 3-bet 15% out of position. And on the river his range is all the hands in this 15% that has a 10 in those. And here we can see that he has better full house 45% of the time, and 55% of the time he has just the trips. And in order to value bet, opponent has to have over 50% of worse hands, and here he has 55%. So I think value shoving here is justified. But let's see if we change this to something else. Just curious, what if he has 8% 3-betting, so he 3-bets only half of that amount. If his 3-betting range is tighter, does it affect these numbers? And now it's pretty close. So against tighter 3-betting range, your river shove becomes quite marginal.
Yeah.
Yeah. But against that 15% or assumed 15%, river shove is justified because of the numbers. Okay. Let's open the next one. Because it's always important to think on the river when our decision is to either bluff catch or to shove. It's important to know that does he have enough of the worst hands in his range or not.
Yeah, and in this spot he had a straight.
Yeah, Kalyan is asking that good player. Yeah, in the chat someone is Kalyan is asking that would I assume that good player folds on the river bottom of his value range. I think when someone pots turn and pots river, he's not folding to that $2 raise. So he's not folding anything that he bets for value. Okay, here we have double suited queens
and this is against same opponent Pokermania.
Yep.
So his pre-flop playing is 65.
Yeah, so he can hit any flop, and you flop the set, and he bets half a pot. You decide to call. On the river, he checks, and you bet 50 cents, and he calls, and on the river comes the flush, and he bets pot, and you call. Okay, now where is the tough decision?
On the river.
Okay.
Is it? Okay, we know he's a fish, so is it a good call against any opponents? Like if it's a regular and he pot that's on the river, and if he's a fish playing like 60-65% hands and pot on the river. So is it justified call with queens?
You have the second nuts.
Yeah, I have the second nuts, but it's easy possible that he have a nuts.
Yeah, I would ask you this way: are you folding here everything but the nuts against aggressive player?
Uh-huh.
Because if you are folding everything but the nuts, then he can put any river and just print money out of you.
Yeah. Um, but what if it's a regular guy?
Then it becomes a little more problematic, but let's go back to flop. He bets and you call, and I always say that action defines range. And on the flop, his range is super wide. He can see bet this with home run. But when you call this flop, then you often you either have a straight or you have a set most of the time, or you have two pairs. You have something on this board. Now comes the turn, and he checks. If he has a jack, then I don't think he's going to check here. And now when you bet, you represent the slow played jack 10, or you represent the set.
Would he, like now on the turn, would he check like ace high flush? Okay, he got a 9 with ace high flush.
Yeah, of course he can check, and he can check his own range. The interesting part is when he check calls. Now you know that he doesn't have a straight, and he might think that he thinks that you have a straight, or you have two pairs or set.
Yeah.
And when he calls, he has something. So he might have a set, or he might have a flush draw. And on the river, he decides to pot. So I'm pretty sure that he has a flush here, often.
Okay.
Or then he's bluffing you with some real weird hand. But the thing is that you have the second nut flush.
Okay.
He can easily pot here with jack high flush, 10 high flush, whatever. So without any good reads, I would never fold second nuts here. If he's a regular, I would still call, because if you want to fold second nuts, backdoor second nuts on the river, you have to be really sure that he has a nut flush.
Okay, so we know he's a fish. He's playing 65%. And I would say you have 10 high flush. So what is, and he puts it on the river. So what is the lowest flush you would call him in this pot?
Really depends on the opponent, and
his
first,
playing.
First I would think that has he done any stupid bluffs on the river? Like, is the pot size bet his normal bet sizing for river?
When he plays, so he's play 70% of the river. He bets 70% of the river, and he always pots.
Okay, so he definitely can bluff the rivers. Then what you need to ask yourself, is he capable of betting the river without the flush?
Definitely.
Then you have to call.
With any flush.
Yeah, when he bets for pot, you need to be right. You need to win the pot 1 out of 3 times. You don't have to win it always. You're risking 164 to win a pot of around $5. So you need like 33% winning chance or equity. So if you win the pot 1 out of 3 times, it's good for you. It's enough. So if he's capable of bluffing and making stupid bluffs on the river, I wouldn't fold flushes.
Okay. Yeah, he had on the river blocker ace, so that's just.
No, he didn't have. He had 2 pairs.
It's a different hand, but with the same guy, he had in same similar spot. He have ace blocker, and he pots the river.
But after this hand, I would definitely make a note out of him that can make really stupid bluff. Or actually, I mean, his call on the turn is bad.
Yeah.
And his river bluff, I can understand that if you had a jack 10 you might fold, or at least a lot of players would fold. But when he calls a turn, he has only 4 outs, or so to speak. So this I think bluffing river is good, but potting is the bet sizing is bad.
Yeah,
You would get
so
the same folding equity with smaller bet sizing, but he shouldn't be on the river with this hand.
you have a question. How would you see his river bluff with Galleon?
Yeah. I just answered that. I don't like it. Well,
So
actually,
how much would you bet
yeah,
it? How much would you bet it if it's this hand and you just call the turn to bluff the river with this
yeah.
crappy hand? How much would you bet it on the river? With
120.
120, yeah.
Yeah, still has fun, but it's just he shouldn't. It's hard to imagine myself on the river with this hand. So especially after this hand, I would not fold any flush, and I would make a note that he can really make big bluffs on the river. Because I think he's calling on the turn, he just calls that he can bluff the river.
Okay.
So definitely make notes of these players. So next time the river, when you have a flush, you don't even consider folding.
Yeah, never.
Yeah, because now you know that he's just really wild. Okay, let's see the second one. And here we have pocket 8s. And you decide to raise smallish. I think small raise is fine, because you are all 100 pp's deep compared to limping. Because if you hit something, it's always nicer. The only problem is that with this hand, you are not going to hit that many nuts, and the pot is going to be often at least 4-way. So with this weak of a hand, I think limping might be an option if you really want to play the hand.
Okay.
Because if you imagine what you're going to hit with this hand, none of those or most of those hits are not really good ones in multi-way pot. But if the opponents are more or less passive ones, then raising is definitely fine. Just don't go crazy post-flop. And then you hit top pair and flush draw, and you check flop.
Yeah. So, is it mistake to check flop here or?
Depends on the opponents. If opponents are passive ones, calling stations, then I would always value bet this one. If any of those are regular or aggressive, I would check back, because you don't want to be check raised.
Okay.
So unless all the opponents are passive calling stations, then checking back is fine. See what happens on the turn. And now you hit one of the best turns in the deck. And someone bets half a pot. And you decide to call. Is raising an option?
This guy is regular, so what would I present on the turn with first I check the flop, then I raise on river? What would I present?
Yeah, pocket 7s.
Only pocket 7s.
Yeah. The problem is that he can have even set of jacks.
Yeah.
He tried to check raise the flop, and now he bets half a pot. I think raising is kind of bad, because most of his range is ahead of you still. And he bets to 3 people, so he has something. So I would just call and see the river. And river, you make the flush, and he bets half a pot. And now your options are probably folding or calling.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
Um,
basic question is, what ranges on the turn? Who, could he bet like king flush draw only?
yeah. The thing is that he bets half a pot on the turn.
Yeah.
So it's really unlikely that he has a set or anything super strong. Because if he has a set and he bets half a pot on the turn, that's a huge mistake. So most of the time he has some sort of kind of flush draw, some kind of straight draw, some kind of combo draw. He might have kings with hearts or something like that. He has something. Now the question is that when you check the flop and call the turn, what do you represent? What does he think you have?
Yeah,
And
maybe
the
flush
first
draw.
question is, often you have something, that's for sure. So the question he thinks is that, do you have a draw or do you have a made hand? And what would you say? What does it look like? Do you have two pairs or a set, or do you have a draw?
I would probably say draw. I
Yeah,
have some kind of draw on the turn
yeah. And on this
if I'm in
board,
his situation.
you have three different straight draws actually. You have straight draw to six and deuce, you have straight draw to six and seven, and you have a straight draw to jack and seven. So you actually have three different straight draws and two different flush draws. So let's say he has something like 8, 9, 10 with hearts. Only
Okay.
chance for him to win the pot is to bluff the river. Or he can have some real weak 5, 4, 7, maybe with the hard draw. So when he bets half a pot, now you need to be right 1 out of 4 times. So if he bluffs at least 1 out of 4 times, or value bets first flush, then you need to call. And only one of the draws from the turn completes. There's 5 different draws and only one of them completes. 4 draws miss from the turn. That's why I would definitely call here. If the 7 of hearts would be like 3 of diamonds and he bets and you call and flush comes and he bets, then it would be a different situation. But here you can have so many missed draws that he can definitely bet with worse hands.
Okay.
So here the key is to understand what does your hand look to your opponent. So I would call, and he gives you a great price anyway. Doesn't look like a value bet when it's exactly half a pot. If he has king high flush, he would bet slightly more for sure.
Yeah, I understand. But this looks like a protective, like kind 10 or jack high flush.
Yeah. If he has jack high or queen high or 10 high flush, then don't worry. It's sort of a setup. Then some other day you will have the queen high flush and he calls you with 9 high flush.
Yeah. Okay.
You need to be right 1 out of 4 times.
I understand.
So, and as the hard draw misses and all the straight draws misses, I'm pretty sure that he can easily bluff with a misdraw.
Okay.
And then we have kings. And you get a nice multi-way pot and you flop the nuts. And then something funny happens. Small blind donk bets. What are your options? You decided to call here.
Yeah, I
Why?
Well, because if I raise, it's going to be around maximum. Is going to be around 120, 130. Is it? So if someone calls behind me, he would call.
You can raise to around $2. You can put
Yeah, but
146 more. Yeah.
yeah, so it's not all in. So if someone calls and he calls, uh, and on the turn is heart, so what to do next?
Yeah.
If then he would jam, like he would jam this zigzag, he would jam. What's my situation on turn if it's a heart?
The thing is that if you raise here to 190,
Yeah,
then assuming that no one else calls, if he calls, the pot would be around 450 or so, and you have 330 behind. So the thing is that if you bet pot here, you have to stack off on any turn. So if you decide to raise a pot here, then you just need to stack off on any turn.
yeah, on any turn, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
I
So
call this spot because I wanted someone behind to call with worse hands or to raise with jacks or with the deuce set, jack or deuce
yeah.
set. So
Earlier I
yeah,
said
if I
that. Sorry. The only way to make money in poker is that opponent makes more mistakes than you do. The problem here is that if you raise for pot, it screams that you have a set of kings,
yeah,
or at least a set of jacks. And after that, it's almost impossible for any good player to make a mistake.
yeah,
Then they know your hand.
yeah, definitely.
So
So if the guy,
that's
yeah,
why I would call. Of course, it sucks. Half of the deck, any card 9 or higher, or heart completes some kind of draw.
yeah,
But if the draw completes and someone puts money in the pot, you can be pretty sure that they have that draw. So then, as you know their hand and you know exactly how many outs you have, then you can make mathematically perfect decisions. So I would call here and underrepresent my hand, and probably hope someone raises or something. Turn is a blank and you can get it in. Because if you raise, it's hard for opponent to make mistakes. Everyone puts you on kings,
yeah.
and they can play perfectly against you.
You have a question? Would you
Yeah.
don't bet if the first guy checked to you?
No, I would probably check raise.
Yeah, you would go check
Depending,
raise.
yeah,
Definitely.
and create a situation where I commit myself on the flop, so I don't have to sort of worry about the turn.
Yeah.
And if he see bet someone calls and then you check raise all in, you can get your step in. And now button makes you a favor, and this donk better folds. This is really strange line, like donk against 3 people and then fold. And you decide to call. Why call instead of shove?
I wanted to give a odds to guy next to us to call with worse hands like Queen 10 or something like that.
Now the problem is that what do you do on the turn if
Jam.
heart comes?
Probably jam because pot is too big. And would
Okay.
he called with a Queen 10 or something like that, or with 2 pairs like King Jack on turn? Not this guy, not that guy, a guy who is left us. Yeah.
Yeah, well, I wouldn't be worried about him because when he calls, it doesn't really change his odds if you shove or not. If he has any big draw, he's going to call you anyway. The thing is that if this guy has a wrap, ace queen 10 or queen 10 9 type of hand, and heart comes, and you shove, then he folds his straight draw.
Yeah.
So you might misvalue. I would just shove here, so you don't have to worry about the turn, because turn might kill the action if he has a straight draw. Or if he has, well, not sure, he might have king jack and flush comes and he folds. Who knows? And this guy, if he wants to call this bet, he needs to call like 230 more. He's going to call your shove anyway, because he will have only $2 behind. He's going to take the flip if he has any big hand. So I would just shove here. Now black comes, so it's good for you and you get it in. And he had ace-5, 9 queen. I really don't understand why he raises the flop, but yeah. I don't like his raise at all. But I think once you have the possibility to just get it in on the flop when you have the nuts, just do it.
He's a reg. This guy, your mom play. I don't know what is his nickname. What do you think if I raised on the flop? What he jammed?
You mean this guy?
Yeah, what he jammed on me, on top of me.
Well, definitely. I mean on the flop.
Well,
I mean if you raise here.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, play 190, 180. What he jammed?
Oh, well, if he jams here, probably yes. It's not a good play, but I don't understand this raise at all. I just there's no point of raising here. This raise is the worst action on this table because it doesn't achieve anything, and he can make plus EV call easily because he has so many nut outs. But once he shoves, and if you shove with kings, he gets it in with worst equity. So I think if you raise, he would just call you. But the outcome is same when he has a really big hand. But I think here, when he raises, he's definitely pot committed. So just get it in and don't worry about the turns.
Yeah.
So often what might happen is actually turn is an action killer and you might lose value. Like Callan is saying in the chat, if you have the nuts and the opponent seems spot committed, you need a real reason not to shove. Okay, next one. We call and you flop the second nuts and this Dr. Mark checks here.
Yeah, everybody checks.
Everybody checks. Then on the turn comes queen. You bet, and he makes a small raise. What do you think about this raise?
Like I put him on two hands, 4. Yeah. So queen 4 or set of aces.
This is quite an interesting hand because if he has queen 4 on the flop, I don't think he's going to check it. He would bet his strips. So this raise is either it's a real weird bluff, or he has a slow played monster like pocket aces, or he might have pocket queens, maybe with the flush draw. You block aces, you block queens, you block 4, you block everything that he represents. But this line, because this board is so good for c-betting, and now when he decides to check this flop and check raise blank turn, I would be really worried here. I would definitely just call as he did.
Just call.
And on the river,
I check river. He
bets half a pot.
Yeah, and I called.
Yes, I think this is definitely the correct line, because his line is so strong. Of course, it might be hard to believe because you have ace, queen, and 4 in your hand, but he's never going to do that with queen 4 in my mind. So it's often aces or queens, and he had queens this time.
Or ace.
Yeah, I don't understand why he doesn't c-bet the flop, but
yeah, because it's like weird. After the hand, I saw he had an ace and he did not c-bet. It's just weird.
Yeah, and he got pretty lucky on the turn. It's the only card in the deck that helps him.
But if he c bets on the flop, he would take all of the money probably from me.
Yeah. But I think definitely with that check on the flop and small raise on the turn, you played it perfectly. You realized that it's probably a trap. And you didn't lose your stack. So it's perfect.
It's correct play. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. We have one more of these hands. And double paired hands, my favorites. You open, you get 3-bet, and you call. In my mind, this is pretty standard. And this is one of the situations that you don't want to be. You flop the set, but there's the ace on the board. What do we know about the opponent?
30. So he played 30 VIPR 30. He's raising.
What is his 3-bet?
Around 3 or 4, between 3 and 4.
Oh dear, that really looks like aces. And he bets half a pot. Well, I would probably raise here. Or not. I think calling is fine. Thing is that if you raise, I thought about that if he has aces, he's going to re-raise, and then I would actually fold because his 3-bet range is so.
Yeah.
When you didn't 4-bet, he knows you don't have aces, so yes, calling is definitely fine.
Wait a second. I think about the raise to 160 or 1/2, but I figure out if I if I raise to 1/5, he could easily here go all in with like a king high flush draw, ace jack or ace 7.
Yeah, because he knows you don't have aces.
Yeah, because I have aces.
That's the problem.
And probably I'm always folding. So that's the reason why I called.
Yeah, it's kind of those spots that he can easily have aces, but unless you are really sure that he has aces, he can have like ace jack, even with the flush draw. So I don't think you can fold this here. And then the flush comes on the river, and he bets really big. Now this is a strange one. I would say that he has not flush draw most of the time. The only hand you can beat here is some kind of ace XXX hand with ace of hearts blocker. And if he's a tight player, he's not betting $3 with a bluff on the river. So I think he can easily have aces with hearts.
Yeah, so in this line with his hands, if we put him on 2 aces and king flush draw, is it anything wrong with his game? So he bets half of pot, half of turn, and probably jam the river. He played like 80% on the river. So if this line, his betting is good or bad?
If he has the nut flush, his bet is really good.
Yeah, if he had a set of aces and nut flush draw.
Yeah, definitely. I think he needs to bet slightly bigger because on this board, the only hands you can call are some kind of wraps or a flush draw. So he can definitely get more value by betting slightly bigger on the flop and turn, which means that he can shove the river. And if you had any flush, most of the players here would not fold. So if he bets bigger on the flop and turn, he can stack you off. Now he couldn't.
What if the river was 6 of diamonds and he bets a pot?
Then I would call, because that's actually it's good for you, because then what he represents on the I don't think he bought set of aces on the river when the straight completes. So if he's suddenly on the flop, he represents made hand, on the turn he represents made hand, and on the river he represents backdoor straight, then it doesn't make sense, so it's more probable that he's bluffing.
Okay.
So if this is 6 of diamonds and he bets, I would snap call.
Okay.
But now when the flush comes and your hand looks like a flush draw and still he bets big, I would fold. Callan is asking that raise folding be bad because even a tight player can be 3-betting with aces and hands that make good wraps. If someone has 3-bet range of 3 or 4 and he's a tight one, often his 3-betting range is aces and kings, not aces and rundowns. Of course it depends. That's why it's often important to make notes out of what kind of hands these tight 3-betters 3-bet with. And definitely the flop raise is bad because you cannot have aces.
Yeah, definitely.
Often.
Yeah, and I fold.
And yeah, I would fold. It's so likely that he has a strong hand. Okay. Then you send me a database. Now I can actually close this one. You send me a database of slightly less than 2,000 hands. And there were a few things that caught my eye. First is that, let me open the hands here. I'm going to open the first one. If our replayer works. Where is the HUD? There it is. Let's make it a big one. This happened a few times. It didn't happen quite often, but some of the time you limp from under the gun. And the biggest question is why?
Because of I figure out later it's a bad. I limp because of the ace, because I have a flush ace. So if I can hit on flop on turn or river, I can get all money in and win some big pots.
Now the thing is that if the hand is such a good one that you want to play it from under the gun, why not open it? Because the thing is that when you limp from under the gun, you really tell everyone that, hey, I don't have a really strong hand. I have some medium hand, but I don't have a strong one. So often I would say that if the hand is not good enough to raise, then you can just fold it. And this hand is actually not good enough. You have ace, king, 8 of spades, which means that you block one of your spades yourself. Other thing is that with your ace high flush draw, the hand that gives you most value is king high flush, and you are blocking that one too. And you cannot make any big wraps, so this is quite weak hand.
Yeah, I figure out.
So there's not much you can hit. If it was a stronger one, definitely open it from under the gun, because you're going to be playing multi-way pot out of position most of the time, which means that if you hit something strong, when you're playing out of position, you want to be able to commit yourself as fast as possible. You really don't want to play rivers out of position. If you hit the nuts, you want to stack off on the flop or at least on the turn. So often when you limp, people limp, you have a small pot. If you hit any big draw, it's really hard to play out of position. If you hit something strong, it's really hard to play out of position. So I would say that make your life easier and don't limp or open limp. You can limp behind with some medium hands in position, but don't open limp. Like this hand just fold it if it's a stronger one and you want to play. Always open raise it. Because when you limp, people know you don't have aces, you don't have any big rundowns, you don't have any kings with good side cards. It's always some kind of small pocket pairs or medium pocket pairs or just ace high flush draw, this type of hands. So I wouldn't do it. Then there are some marginal pre-flop calls. I've got two hands. This is the first one. What happens here is that you get cutoff open small blind calls and you decide to call here. Now, is this a good hand in your eyes?
No.
What can you hit with this hand? What is a good flop for you?
Good flop for me. Ace 9 to 8.
Yep.
7 6. I don't know. It's only basically you need to hit like 1 or 2% of. Yeah, it's bad hand.
Yeah, it's bad hand. Of course, you get that 1 BP discount, but you still have to pay 12 cents to get into the pot. And what if the flop is ace jack 7? You have a top pair and a cut shot. Can you continue? What if the board is king jack 8? You have the bottom set. Suddenly, if the money starts to go in, the bottom set is not that great one. 8 9, you can make some open enders, you can make 9 high flush. Thing is that this hand cannot flop the nuts very often. You are in three-way pot. You are the sandwich here. It's really hard to play. It's easy to play if you hit the strong one. If you hit the set, or you hit the straight, or you hit top 2 pairs, it's easy to play. Or if you don't hit anything, it's easy to play. But what if the board is ace high? What if you hit the 9 high flush draw? Or what if the flop is jack 10? You have the bottom open ender. Those create a lot of problems.
Yeah, so if it's instead of ace like 7 or 6 or 10 or jack, then it's easy call.
Yeah, then it's a bit easier because then you can actually hit the nuts more often. Now comes 477. Everyone checks. And you check. Let's go backwards. When this pre-flop opener checks this flop, would he ever have a really strong hand?
Maybe not 7s, but he could have like 10s or 9s.
Yeah, he can have. But I don't think he ever has a 7. Now, when the turn comes, and small blind checks again, can he have a 7 or even 4?
No.
Okay, so now you know that neither one of them has 7 or 4. I would always bet here. You can bet like half pot, 25 cents or 30 cents. And these guys will fold a lot of their hands. I think that if they have pocket 9s, 10s or jacks, they would often fold. I would bet here, and if the river is any kind of blank, I would bet the river again, because they don't have a strong hand here, almost ever. If you bet 25 cents here, you need to win the pot 1 out of 3 times.
Okay.
Which is definitely going to happen here. Now river is a 6. And still you don't bet. And he has pocket queens. I think if you bet the turn and river, he would definitely fold those hands.
I'm not sure. That's the reason.
Well, if you see that he calls the turn and river with queens, next time when you have a 7-4 or kings, you can just make money out of him. And the thing is that even if he calls the turn with queens, still he's going to fold the turn often enough because he doesn't have the queens or kings that often. And you have only pocket 8, which means that any card 9 or higher might give someone better 2 pairs, like any jack, king, queen. Or someone might have pocket 9s, pocket 10s that he would fold if you bet. So on the flop I would check, but when these all check, especially the pre-flop opener, when he checks he doesn't have a strong hand often. And on the turn when he checks and the turn is kind of blank, I would stab the pot quite often here. And just pick up that 51 cents that 10 BBs is waiting for you.
So how much would you bet?
25 cents.
25.
They fold the air. So, but other than that, I think pre-flop call is quite marginal. There's other one that caught my eye. There it is. And here we have this one. Similar type of hand, not even that one. Very small open. Very small open, and you decide to call this min raise from under the gun with this hand. Of course, you have invested 1 BB, half a BB, so you need to pay only 8 cents. I don't think the problem is in your pre-flop odds. The problem is that once you call, this big one will always call, and you will have to play 3-way pot out of position with the hand that cannot flop almost anything strong. The strongest thing you can hit is ace-high flush draw, and if you start to think how to play ace-high flush draw out of position, it's really hard to play profitably. Because most of the time, to call with the flush draw, you need to have implied odds, and out of position it's really hard to have implied odds.
Yeah.
So I don't think you can justify the call with your hand strength, which means that then to justify the call you need to have ways to win the pots without showdown, and here out of position against 2 people and one is under the gun open, which should be a strong range, it's really hard. So I would just fold this hand. You flop the cut shot and opponent checks back. As I said earlier, action defines range. What do you think about this check back?
He don't have anything probably, so maybe he have like a 10, but definitely he don't have a king or aces or maybe queens.
Often it's easier to define range by thinking what he shouldn't have. So you kind of narrow down. Would he ever have a set here?
Definitely not.
Okay,
no set, no 2 pairs.
Yeah, what about ace, queen, jack type of big wrap?
Definitely not. He would probably bet.
Yeah.
Because
so now we know.
Yeah, it's a rainbow flop, so he will probably bet.
So he doesn't have a strong hand often. That's why I would bet here. Because often when people check here, he might have just like pocket queens, and now when you bet he folds. Whatever. So I would bet here on the turn when the turn is blank. You have only ace high.
Yeah,
so probably you're not going to win the pot if you check here often enough. But he doesn't have a strong hand, so I think you can definitely bet here.
Okay, in this pot he could have easily like ace, queen, jack 10. Or ace 10.
No.
or ace 10, like, and he could call this turn. Or so what's our action on the river?
If the river is a blank, then bet again.
Yeah, I'll bet again a half pot.
Yeah, or even bigger. Half a pot is such a. It often looks like a bluff. It's like half a pot tells us that I don't know what to bet, so I bet half a pot.
Hmm.
Often. So slightly bigger is more believable. Of course, it depends. When he calls a turn, he has something. So either he has a really bad bluff catcher, or he has some kind of draw, like he kind of have ace queen type of hand or something. But I would definitely bet here. Now he checks again, so you know he shouldn't have anything. And 9 comes. It's kind of thing that now you actually have some showdown value. But when you check the turn, if you bet the turn and he calls, I would bet the river, and he is going to fold often enough. And he had 9-10, deuce 8, quite strange open from under the gun, and he would have folded on the turn.
I'm sure he would have folded on turn.
Yeah, well, he cannot call it then. Or
Yeah.
if he does, then he is such a player that you're going to make money out of him anyway.
Yeah, and he's going to call us on the river probably with 2 pairs.
Yeah, then you just make a note, and next time when you have the flush, you just put the river.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I think those hands definitely pre-flop. When you complete from the blinds, I actually check your database that on the blinds you are losing quite much. Like on the small blind, you are losing more than you would have lost if you just folded every hand. So out of that 2000 hands, if you had folded all of your small blinds without looking at your cards, you would have made more profit.
Yeah.
But one of the reasons is we can do it next actually now that we call it. Do you have any idea how often you open the pot when it comes folded to you on the small blind? So you're on the small blind, everyone folds to you. How often you open against the big blind?
If it's like a nit, and he is like till 14, so till 14 I open like 100% of hands. If he's like
what about the average number?
average
Do you have
number,
any idea how often on average you open from the small
like
blind?
60%.
Yeah, 70.
I open like 60%.
You open 70% of the times.
So I need to open like 70% of times. Yeah.
No, you do open 70. You don't need to. That's
okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
you open 7 out of 10 times when it's folded to you. And the problem is that if the opponent is any decent player, it's really hard to make money in a heads-up pot out of position, even if you have a strong range. And you don't often have that strong range. And I have one example. There it is. And let's put it here. Now here you open. This guy is 27-18, which seems that he is kind of regular. And if he's a good regular, he's not going to fold here that often. Because, I mean, if I was here on the big blind and some kind of regular opens, I would defend my big blind most of the time. I 3-bet with top of my range and call with almost the rest, because I don't even need a hand to win the pot.
Yeah, because you're in position.
Yeah, I'm in position, and what happens here is that he 3-bets and you decide to call. So if you reopen this hand is total garbage. This is a bad hand. So when you open, I would assume that this is an attempt to steal the blind. And once he 3-bets, that plan failed. He didn't fold. So with this type of hand, you should definitely fold to a 3-bet. Because if you call, what happens is that either you miss the flop and you have to fold so many flops, or you hit the set and you can get some value, or you hit ace high flush draw and you take the flip on the flop. So I would fold this pre-flop before opening, unless he's a huge nit. We're not gonna open any 4. And once he 3-bets, definitely fold. But this is not the type of opponent you want to open with any 4 cards. He needs to have VPIP of under 15 or something that if you want to open. The thing is that, like with this hand that is pretty much air, when you open 3 BBs, you are opening 30 cents to win 7 cents. Which means that you have to be successful very often to make profit. And this player probably calls 80% of the time you hear. And he 3-bets your call, and now you just have to check fold the flop. He can have anything. So I don't think you should open that much from the small blind. Against really tight players, VPIP 10 or something, you can open any 4 cards. But against those tight aggressive regulars, just open the strongest ones.
What about fish?
If someone is high VPIP player, then you often need to have a hand at showdown, because they don't like to fold. And with ace 3, 3, 4, you don't have that hand in showdown. Then you can open with wider range for value. You can open almost any hand that you can value bet on flop and turn if you hit something, but ace 4, 3, 3 just doesn't hit the flops.
Yeah, I understand.
One thing that you do is, as in the last hand, you call 3-bets with hands that don't really work in 3-bet pots. Like here's one example. You have pocket jacks, open is fine, then you get a 3-bet from sort of regular. And no one calls and you decide to call. Now the problem is, unless you hit the set of jacks, you can't be happy about on the flop. And you will hit the set of jacks only 1 out of 8 times. And even if you hit the set of jacks, the opponent doesn't stack off always. Now problem is, if the flop is ace high when you have ace in your hand, like the flop is ace 9-5, what do? Or you hit the flush draw, you are once again blocking one of your own flush draw outs. It's so hard to play flush draw profitably out of position. There are often 2 things that are not good for your hand in 3-bet pots. One is that you have ace in your hand, because opponent can have often ace, especially at micros. And the other thing is that if you have a pocket pair, because it reduces the amounts of time that you hit the flop. Like if you had ace jack king 7, it would be even better, because then you can hit 2 pairs more often. But now when you have pocket pair in your hand, it reduces the amounts of the times that you hit the flop. So now you have top 2 opponent bets and your call. Why aren't you happy to raise here?
if I stack, he would maybe fold. So,
Would it be bad for you?
uh, no, probably not. But hmm,
Okay, now when you call, what kind of turn you want to see?
uh, like non-diamond, non-diamond below 10.
Non-diamond below then. What if it's deuce 4, 5 or 6?
Uh, no problem. Then I go all in or call his bet.
Deuce 4, 5 or 6 complete a straight.
Yeah, but I don't think so. In his range is like 7-6-5-4 or something like that.
Let's see. We only know 2 hands of what he has 3, but the problem here is that you don't have any nut outs. Ace is good for you, ace is probably good for 7 is good for you, jack is good for you. But if the turn is anything besides ace 7 or jack, it's not good for you. He might have king, king, 4, 5. And now 6 comes on the turn. So on the turn you have no idea if you are ahead or behind. Which means that if you stack off on almost any turn besides any diamonds, you have no idea if you are value betting or if he's value betting you. So you have to guess on turns so often. Now 10 comes and he bets and now you have no idea where you stand. And now you decide to shove. The thing is that on the flop, what do you think is his range?
High aces with flush draw.
So if he has only pair of aces on the flop, why don't you shove the flop when you have the best hand?
I thought if I call a flop and if it's a safe turn like this, if it's not diamond, I could play pot, then he would fold. But I kind of scared of 10 of hearts, and I checked, and yeah, it just problem after the problem, you know.
Yeah, and preflop started those problems. Okay, what if the turn is 10 of diamonds?
Definitely fold.
Okay, you check, he checks, river is any card, what do you do?
I would probably bet, like protect bet.
And what worse hand would call you?
I'm not worried about worse hand. I'm worried if he bets on the river. So if it's pot like 263 and he bets like 190 or 180.
Well, you should be worried because let's say the turn is 10 of diamonds and the river is 5 of spades and you bet. Is it a bluff or is it a value bet? Those are the options for betting. Do you want him to call or do you want him to fold?
Yeah, definitely not. Probably.
Which one?
Not to call.
Okay, so you want him to fold, so it's a bluff. So for your bet to work as a bluff, he needs to fold better hand. So would he fold ace 10? He can't have ace 10 because he doesn't bet the turn. He cannot have any set when he doesn't bet the turn. There aren't any better hands that will fold, so it doesn't work as a bluff. And on the other way around, it doesn't really work with the value bet because there aren't any worse hands that can call you. So here, the problem is that your preflop call creates this problem. You hit something, but with this hand, these ace-high boards, it's not really good for you. And you're out of position. So what comes that on the flop you are not sure what to do. On the turn, you have that two aces, two sevens, two jacks, six outs that help you. Everything else, 85% of the times, the turn doesn't help you. You don't know what to do, so you shove. And what happens is that the opponent has ace-10. And he's pre-flop, well, pre-flop he's not crushing you actually because you have higher flush draw and you have pocket pair. But on this board you are flipping pot, on the turn he makes better hand and you end up stacking off. So I would say that here when he 3-bets, just fold the hand. These pocket pairs don't work in 3-bet pots. And especially when you have ace in your hand, because most of the things that you can hit create problems, especially in 3-bet pots.
Yeah, is it easy call with the two jacks and two sevens?
Yeah, with double paired hands, definitely call, because then you can hit set 1 out of 4 times.
Yeah, okay.
Now you hit set only 1 out of 8 times.
Yeah, 1 out of the 8 times.
Yeah. Then there were a lot of situations that when you open pre-flop and the flop is paired board, like 7-7 deuce, or monotone with all of the 3 cards being the same suit, you often don't see bet. Or if you see bet, your bet sizing is quite big. And that is something that can definitely increase your win rate. I'm going to show you a couple of hands. Here's one. Let me close this one. One of the examples. Of course, now you have aces, but you open pre-flop and you get one caller and the flop is 7-8 deuce. And you decide to check. Why?
If I bet and I get check raise, if I get raised, I would fold.
Yes.
If I get called, what do I do on turn?
You check fold.
Yeah, I check fold.
Yeah, because the thing is that if you check, now he bets, and you fold. If I was the opponent, I would bet probably my whole range here. Because when you don't see bet, you shouldn't have a flush often. Or then you are trapping. So the opponent can definitely see bet here. Bet most of his range, definitely all his air. When you check the flop, he bets 25 cents, at huge odds, and you fold, and he can have anything, he can have total air, which if you bet, he would fold.
Yeah, so I need to see bet like 55% of the pot.
Half a pot is good standard.
Okay.
I would bet 20 cents with my whole range here as a standard play, with my air, with my flushes, with everything.
Okay.
Against unknown opponents. Because the thing is that it's really hard for an opponent to play back at you, even if you have air. Like if you had ace 3, 4, or 5, you bet half a pot. If he calls with any set, any 2 pairs, any flushes, he's still going to fold often enough for it being profitable. And now when you check and he bets, you fold it best hand. If you check, he checks, whatever the turn is, you have no idea what to do.
Yeah.
And this happened a lot of times. And most of those situations are kind of situations where, like here, if you bet, you often win this 41 cents. When you check, you lose this 41 cents. So I would say that, especially in heads-up pots, if it's a multi-way, it's different, but in a heads-up pot, always see bet half a pot. I would say that in a heads-up pot, unless you have a really good reason of not to see bet, always make the c-bet. Because action defines range, and when you check instead of c-bet, we have few examples here when you create problems by not c-betting. Because action defines range, and when you check instead of c-betting, you cap your range. You tell the opponent that you don't have a nuts or strong hand on the flop. So it limits the hands you can represent on the turn or river. Here you have double-suited aces, you open standard, you totally miss the flop, and you check. Now, if the opponent is a decent one, he knows you don't have a set of kings, set of queens, or king-queen, or aces with flush draw or something like that. So 90 cents into pot of 41, he bets half a pot, and you decide to call. Now the problem comes, what do you want to see on the turn?
Yeah.
Let's assume he bets every turn. What turns are you going to call? What would be a turn card that you are happy to call when he bets half a pot again?
Probably 3.
Yeah, 3 is probably the only one, and even then he might have the set. You don't know. He can have set in his range, you can't. Now the turn is a blank. He knows you don't have king, queen or set, so he can bet here again. Now you have to call. And now river comes the flush. And he bets really small. And he probably knows that when you check call the flop instead of c-betting, you either have a really weak hand or you have a draw. And the draws are either flush draw or you have a straight draw. Which means that he can make this bluff. If you fold your draws, this bluff is super profitable with air. 35 cents in the pot of 155. And this time you call, and well, he had top pair and flush draw and cut shot. And of course against this hand you would have lost the pot anyway, but I think you need to bet the flop.
Yeah, okay. So if I bet the flop in this pot and 5 comes on a turn, what do I do? Check fold then?
No, I would barrel again, because then it's really obvious. When he just calls the flop, he shouldn't have set of kings or queens often. Which means that he has some kind of draw, so now you are ahead of him. You can bet the turn. Okay. If he calls the turn again, you are sure that he has a draw. Yeah. And now when the deuce comes, then you can just check fold.
Yeah, check fold. Okay, I perfectly understand that.
But the basic idea is that in a heads-up pot, if you are not sure what to do, always c-bet. Because then you can represent anything on the turn. Like, if you bet the flop and he calls and the turn is queen, then you can bet again and represent the full house. Of course, now you have aces, it's different, but if you had just ace high, ace 7, 4, 3, it's always important that you keep your options open. And when you check the flop, you limit your turn options a lot. Oh, there's a lot of questions on Twitch chat. Well, at least there's one of our representatives answering there. What do we have? We have few other hands of the same topic. Let's open that one. And let's see what happens here. Great hand. You open against limper, you can call, and the flop is jack 8-7, and the opponent checks, and you decide to check. Once again, now when you check, the opponent knows you don't have a 10-9. And that's one of the problems. So now he knows you don't have the straight.
Yeah, but here's my situation. If I bet like 25 and he go nuts or I don't know, and he three bet, he raises, sorry, on a flop, and what do I do? I
You
think,
fold.
yeah, fold. But I think my hand is very strong if I hit 9. So it could have
Well,
easily.
how often you hit the 9?
Yeah, that's a big bet. Yeah,
Because okay, let's say the turn is 2 of spades and he bets 45 cents. What do you do?
uh, probably it's a fold. Yeah.
So now comes the problem. If I was this Mike and you check the flop and turn is blank, I would always bet with my air. Because I know you don't have a straight. Unless the board changes, you cannot call on the turn and river bets. And most of the time you cannot call on big turn bet because you don't have a straight. So now the situation is that if he has air and you bet the flop, you win the pot. If he has air and you check the flop, you lose the pot on the turn. And now this 51 cents is going to your opponent instead of to you. Of course, now the problem is more problematic because you have actually the top pair and cut shot. Which means that if you check the flop, you tell your opponent that, hey, I don't have a straight. So you invite him to bluff you. Which means that when you actually have the top pair and you have the cut shot even, you cannot fold the blank turn. Of course, now the turn is thin and he checks. Okay, now he has checked to you twice. If he has a straight, would he check the turn?
No.
So now the question is, why don't you bet?
Yeah, mistake.
Yep. You should be able to identify the situation that he don't have a straight, so you can definitely bet for value here and protect your hand against some kind of cut shots or flush draws.
But
two pairs.
yeah, but would he bet here like 9-6?
What?
Would he bet on the turn 9-6?
I think he would bet the turn with 9-6 because you check the flop, and against 9-6 you have quite many outs. It's not a problem. Any 9 or ace gives you higher straight, and jack and 10 gives you full house. And now he checks the river. I would bet here because he doesn't have a straight. He checked the flop, checked the turn, checked the river. He doesn't have anything strong. So I would make a small bet, 25 or 20 cents here, and hope he bluff catches me. And he might call you on the river with queens, but now you gave him free card on the turn. He might hit the queen, he might hit 8, he might hit 7, he might hit the diamond. But
so let me get straight. If I bet here on the flop and he calls me and we hit 10 on the turn, what's our action if he check to us?
Then the situation changes. Now you know he doesn't have 10-9, but he has something.
Yeah,
So
he could have like a set of 8s or set of 7s.
Yeah, he has sets. He might have some kind of 9-6-5 type of hands. He might have some double cut shots. He might have some king, queen 10 type of hands or something. When the 10 comes, it completes some of the straights. And if he calls the flop, he's probably not going to fold the turn. So if you bet the flop he calls on this turn, I would check back. You still have some nut outs and just the pot control, because now you don't want to be check raised.
Okay, and the river is, I don't know, what is river? Sorry, I forget. River is a 3, and he bets half a pot.
I would call.
You would call?
Yeah, because now on the turn, the thing is that you tell him that you don't have a straight.
What if
So
he?
he can bluff the river. It's always important to understand what do you represent. What does the opponent think you have? And if you check the turn here, the opponent knows that you don't have a queen 9.
What if he pots turn? Pots river. Sorry. So we bet flop. He calls a flop. We check both turn, and he pots a river.
I'm going to show you here about how to. Okay. Now our options are, let's say that he has 3 types of hands. He has better hands, or actually it's queen 9. Or he has a straight, let's say it that way. He has a straight, he has a set or 2 pairs, or he has total air for some reason. And our options are either, if we bet that, our options are check turn and call river. That's one option. Or the other option is to bet turn. And let me put it here. Okay. And now, if he has a better hand, if he has queen 9, with this hand we are going to lose 1 bet. Or if we bet the turn, he check raises and we have to fold, we are going to lose 1 bet. So either one we choose against the queen 9, we are going to lose that 1 bet. So we are not really worried about when he has queen 9. When he has set or 2 pairs, then if the river is blank, he's not going to bet the river often. He is happy to check call the river if he has a set. If we bet the turn, we are going to lose. Against air, if we check turn and call river, we are going to win some money. If we bet the turn, he's going to fold, so we don't win anything. So here's the thing, that unless our hand improves on the river, if he has a straight, queen 9 or something, it doesn't matter which line we chose or choose, we're going to lose anyway. If he has a set, if we check turn and call any rivers, then we don't lose any money because he's not going to bet the river unless the board pairs. But if we bet the turn, we're going to lose money. And the only reason why we should check turn and call river to make profit is against this air. So now, if we bet the turn against 2 types of his hands, we're going to lose money. And if we check turn and call river against 1 type of hand, we're going to still lose money, but against 1 we're going to win money. And against set and 2 pairs, we're not going to make any profit. Of course, if he has worse 2 pairs, it might be different, but I think if he calls the flop, then he often has a set. So I wouldn't be worried about him having queen 9, because if these 2 lines are our options, it doesn't matter which one we do. The outcome is the same. We lose that 1 bet. But with checking turn and calling river, we make more profit against everything else. So that's why I think checking the turn and calling any blank river is better line overall. Are you still there?
Yeah, but we don't have any killing river with this type of hand.
What do you mean?
Sorry, we have a queen probably. Yeah.
Queen is not good for you.
Yeah, queen or king.
Ace gives you nuts, 9 gives you nut, Jack and 10 gives you full house. And
Yeah,
9
so-
gives you nuts. Yeah.
Yeah, so probably bad rivers are for us king or queen.
Yeah, the idea is that we check the turn to give him an opportunity to bluff, and then we bluff catch the river if he bets. But if he bets the river, he's range is polarized. He either has a straight or he has air. If he has a set, he's not going to bet the river often.
Yeah, I understand.
Because he might think that we have 10-9, and we check the turn because we might be afraid of queen 9 or whatever. It doesn't make sense for him to bet the river with the set. So often when we have a decision between two lines, do we here want to bet the turn or do we want to check turn and call river, no matter what it is? With this type of thinking, we can see that when he actually has the straight, it doesn't matter which one we choose. So we don't have to even think about the times he has a straight. We are only focusing on these two situations, when he has a set or when he has air, and what lines give us best profit against those two.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and Callan is saying that thinking player would always bet the set in river. What if you have the set of 8s or 7s on the flop? Would you bet the river? And if you do want to bet the river, what is the value range or the calling range of opponent that you value bet against?
Probably 2 pairs, Jack 10, Jack 8, Jack 7.
If the opponent has set of jacks, then I think value betting river is justified, but with set of 8s or 7s, it can backfire because the opponent can have small straight, he can have set of jacks, so it becomes really, really thin. And I would think that out of the range distribution, if Mark has set of 7s, the opponent has better hand more often than worse hand that he can call the river. Because in my turn check range, I definitely have set of jacks, 8s, 10s. So it kind of sucks. But yeah, it creates problems. But against that set, no matter what the set is, we're going to lose anyway. Even if we bet the turn or go to the river, it doesn't matter.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
Those were the few spots. Because things that you can instantly improve are definitely in a heads up pot when you open pre-flop. On the flop, always think that if I don't see bet, what does it tell my opponent about my hand? And it tells your opponent that you don't have the nuts. So especially out of position, it creates a lot of problems. Second one is bet sizing on paired boards and monotone boards. Because with too big of a bet sizing, it means that every time when you're bluffing, you need to be successful way more often, which is often the factor between making a plus EV bet or minus EV bet. So that half a pot is really good bet sizing as a standard. And one thing is try not to call from the blinds with marginal hands. Okay. The problem is not the pre-flop price. You often have a great price pre-flop, but with really weak hands, with marginal hands, you're going to hit marginal hands on the flop. And that's when the problem starts, as we saw with the ace-jack-jack type of hand. It was 3-bet pot, but when you call with the blind like ace-jack-9, 3 type of hands, you're not going to hit the nuts that often. So you often have weak top pair, weak 2 pairs, cut shots, and so on. And it's really hard to play, especially out of position, which happens on the blinds. So that's quite important. And the fourth one is when it's folded to you on the small blind, always check the opponent. And if the opponent is regular, open only with strong hands. Don't try to bluff regulars because they will just take your money.
Definitely.
Okay.
Okay.
So there were some spots where you can instantly increase your win rate.
Yeah, definitely. These three sports are very important, I think. I mean, see betting, small blind, and betting on pair boards or flush boards.
Yeah.
Um,
To me, it seems that at the moment, on the pre-flop and flop decisions, you are not yet thinking about what will happen on the turn or reverse. So you sort of live in the moment, like on the pre-flop with the ace jack 9-3, you think that, oh, I only have to pay 5 cents into the pot. And you don't think what kind of situations you will face post-flop. Or on the flop, when you decide not to c-bet, you just think that the flop is scary, I don't want to be check raised, so I c-bet. And you don't think how does it affect your turn and river decisions and situations. So that's definitely one thing that you can start to practice, is to think a bit more ahead, like a chess player. Think a few moves ahead.
Definitely.
Yeah. So this will be on YouTube later when our admins can upload it, so you can have it there.
Yeah, to check it every time.
Yeah, and I can send the video file to you if you want to have it in your own computer too.
Yeah, it's no problem. We can. Yeah, you can send me. It's no problem.
Yeah. And if anyone there who's watching this wants to have public private coaching, just send a PM to me on Pokrimania. It can be this way, sort of small database, link finding, it can be anything else. It's totally up to you what you want to do with the 1.5 hours. But this is one of the options to get a discount on coaching. Thank you, Chstal. I just can't pronounce it.
It's easy.
Yeah, I always thought that when I watched this name, it reminded me of Chstal. But yeah, it's Chstal. Yes. Yeah, thank you anyway. It was great to have you here.
Thank you.
Yeah, and please make some post on the forum to see if it improved you or if you had any things that really opened your eyes or anything. Just you can even make a blog to our forum.
Okay.
And let us know how you're doing. Okay?
Okay, no problem. Thanks.
Yes. Thank you, and thanks for Callion for keeping up the conversation. And see you all later. We have Finnish PLO evening at Friday. So see you all the Finnish viewers then and all the English ones on the next week. Okay.
Okay.
Yes. Have a good night.
Same.
Yep. Bye bye.
Bye bye.